When I look back on my childhood, growing up in Chicago in the late 1940s, it almost seems like it happened in another world. And in a way it did. So many things have changed since then that if I were magically transported from that time into the present, it would be easy to imagine I had been taken to an entirely different planet, rather than just another time. From its earliest days, Chicago was a huge melting pot, and the burner was on full boil. Poles, Czechs, Hungarians, Irish, Greeks, Italians, and Jews all flocked there in groves from Eastern Europe in the early 1900s. Even rural Americans came, whites from the Appalachians and blacks from the cotton country of the Deep South. Most were unskilled laborers just looking for work, but any time you plant so many different cultures together in one spot, you're bound to reap the growing pains of diversity. In 1948, I was 10 years old and didn't think much about race or ethnic divide, but eventually it rubs off on you, like a bad smell. Nevertheless, I always considered myself fortunate for being born when I was. By the time I was old enough to remember much of anything, World War II had ended and the biggest race riots of Chicago were already in the history books. But be that as it may, the wounds of a city as big as Chicago can leave scars that never heal completely. Our family lived on the south side, in an area known as Packingtown. It was called that because of its proximity to the Union stockyards, the largest slaughterhouses in the world. Some folks referred to our neighborhood as the back of the yards. I didn't find out until I was older that the reference was meant as a slight to the people who lived there. Nevertheless, I was proud of it. Almost all the beef and pork consumed in America was slaughtered, packaged, and shipped around the country by rail from there. My father always said we were feeding America. I guess that's partly why the things people said about us never really bothered me. He told me another story once, about how the stockyards processed over 120,000 hogs on one single day. I could scarcely imagine the room it would take to assemble 50 hogs in one place, let alone 120,000. But that was before I saw the size of the stockyards. One thing was certain, you didn't need to see the yards to know they were there. A shift in wind direction would often send the putrid smells of blood and manure creeping through the streets of my neighborhood like some dark angel of death. And it clung to everything, your clothes, your hair, your skin. On the warmest of summer days, I would venture to say you could even taste it. That smell was something I never got used to, and to this day, when I recall anything from my childhood, the smell of Chicago is the first thing I remember. Still, the stockyards employed over 30,000 men and provided a livelihood for many more that extended far beyond the dinner table. There was scarcely a part of any animal slaughtered in those yards that they didn't find a use for. Early on, I was rather proud of that fact, until I realized such efficiency was only the byproduct of a greed-driven industry, and there was nothing virtuous about it. It simply boiled down to the almighty dollar, like so much of life does to this day. But even with the yard's ugliness as a backdrop to my childhood, to me, Chicago held all the trappings of a beautiful woman. Charm, sensuality, mystery, and danger were all rolled into one intriguing package. She was the type of woman that once you got to know her, you just might be willing to die for her. And as time would prove, many men did. But like I said, in 1948, I was only 10 years old.